After responding to a home on 14th Street for the third time, Elyria police arrested 32-year-old Ebony Burks on 2 warrants and domestic violence charges. When officers arrived at the home around 8:45 p.m., they found Burks in a heated altercation with her grandfather. Burks refused to explain why she was fighting with him, according to police. Even after being placed in handcuffs, Burks continued her aggressive behavior, spitting twice in her grandfather's face before officers managed to secure her in the police cruiser. We now head to Elyria, Ohio for a bond hearing that quickly spirals into a lesson in courtroom decorum. The defendant, Ebony Burks, appears remotely before Judge Gary Bennett, facing charges of misdemeanor assault and domestic violence against her grandfather, Shedrick McRae, and his companion. The hearing begins calmly enough with Judge Bennett explaining Burks' options.
You have 3 pleas available to you today: guilty, not guilty, and no contest. What plea would you enter?
Burke responds, and for a brief moment, it seems like this will be a routine hearing. But things take a turn when the judge sets Burke's bond at $15,000 for the 2 charges and imposes a strict no-contact border with the victims, including her grandfather, with whom she shares a home. Judge Bennett lays out the conditions.
No contact means you can't call him, you can't write him, you can't text him, you can't email him, can't leave a message on some social media, you can't go visit him. If you go someplace, even though you may have arrived first and one of them shows up, you have to leave.
Burks immediately protests.
So you gonna tell me I can't go home?
I'm telling you, you can't go home. If you live with Mr. McRae, you cannot return to that residence.
Oh, but how you just gonna tell me I can't go home though?
What?
How you gonna tell me I can't go to my home?
I just did.
Not backing down, Burks defiantly retorts.
How you gonna tell me I can't go to my home?
I just did.
Well, I bet I do.
Burks took issue with the judge's decision that she would not be allowed to contact or see her grandfather, Shedrick McRae, as she shared his home. This restriction meant she could no longer return to the place she considered her own, sparking her intense reaction in court. But even the judge wastes no time.
Well, then you're in contempt, young lady, and you've got 30 days, so you're not going to...
Burks continues to interrupt, and the judge quickly stacks more time onto her sentence.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Get back! Get back! Get back! That's another 30 days. That's 60 days.
So what?
90 days.
So?
120 days.
Okay, and?
180 days.
Whoa! Please, quiet. Get off me. Get your hands off me, man.
She's briefly escorted out, but soon returns, still agitated.
What else you got to say?
Nothing. We'll talk in 6 months when you're ready to come back for your case.
I ain't got money.
That's 200 days. You got anything else to say, Miss Burks? That's 300 days.
By the end of the exchange, Burks racks up 300 days in contempt charges, the longest sentence Judge Bennett has ever imposed for contempt of court. However, she ultimately serves only 88 days in jail. Her original charges for assault and domestic violence are suspended, and she is required to enter a substance abuse program. Now we turn our attention to Jackson, Michigan, where a personal protection violation hearing is underway against Jacob Larson. Larson is accused of sending unwanted advances on Facebook to a former high school acquaintance, despite a restraining order filed against him just 4 months ago by the same judge presiding today. The judge doesn't waste any time, cutting straight to the point.
You know what? I told you to leave her alone. And apparently that didn't get through loud and clear. So today, you're going to jail for 3 days. And the next time you violate it, you're going to jail for...
You and her are
You know what? You got a bad attitude. You had a bad attitude last time you were in court. Okay?
You and her are buddy-buddy. Y'all get along. Y'all are...
45 days county jail. Okay? 93 days in the county jail. You want to go for a year? Try it right now.
Defiance pushes the judge to the brink. As the judge orders him to be taken away, Larson refuses to be escorted out of the court, forcing the judge to intervene directly to subdue him. In the end, Larson is sentenced to 93 days in county jail. As we move to the next case, just a quick reminder that if you like these videos, please take a second to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for viewing. Moving on. In February 2021, a Mississippi courtroom turned into a scene of unexpected chaos when 27-year-old Sydney Newsom, facing a domestic violence charge, launched a sudden attack on the presiding judge. Newsom was in Pike County Justice Court, handcuffed and shackled, initially appearing relatively calm as he reviewed paperwork, but tensions began to simmer when a transport officer tapped the table, seemingly agitating him. The situation escalated quickly when Newsom's mother and brother entered the courtroom. Newsom attempted to meet them but was guided back to his place by the officer. After signing the necessary paperwork, he began arguing with Judge Aubrey Rimes. The judge, not in the mood for disruptions, ordered Newsom's removal from the court. But Newsom had other ideas. Instead of complying, he hurled a stack of papers at the judge. When that didn't suffice, he overpowered the transport officer trying to subdue him, escalating the situation further. Newsom then threw a telephone at the judge and knocked over a computer monitor, causing chaos in the courtroom. Judge Rimes quickly attempted to regain control, but the situation became even more complicated when Newsom's brother got involved, adding to the confusion. Additional transport officials rushed in to help, finally managing to escort Newsom out of the courtroom. With order gradually restored, Newsom's brother was also removed, and the proceedings eventually resumed. As a consequence of his outburst, Sidney Newsom was charged with contempt of court and served 48 hours in jail.
In terms of the deposition dates, what's your response to that?
What dates?
Ms. Kimball, do you have proposed dates?
And whose expense? Mine? Because if it's mine, I'm not doing it. Sanction, give me $100 fee, woo woo.
We now head to Dallas, Texas, for a tense civil hearing involving a child custody dispute between Amanda Stiles and her ex-husband, Ryan Parnell. The atmosphere is already charged as both parties appear remotely before Judge Drew Ten Ake, with Parnell's attorney, Lacey Kimball, presenting several motions, including a request for Stiles to take a drug test. Stiles, representing herself without an attorney, seems prepared for a battle. The hearing begins with the judge greeting both sides and inviting Kimball to present her motions. Kimball outlines the motions: a drug screening, a psychological exam, and a complaint about an unanswered discovery request. As Kimball speaks, Stiles begins to interrupt, raising her objections loudly. The judge quickly steps in, asking her to object properly rather than yell. He mutes Stiles to allow Kimball to finish presenting her case. Kimball then mentions an order to compel Stiles to provide dates for a deposition. When prompted to respond, Stiles unmuted herself and immediately admits,
I use marijuana daily. All day, every day.
Okay.
So I'm glad to take the drug test.
Stop.
Okay, go. It's going to be on his expense, but I'm...
Stop.
The judge tries to maintain order, reminding Stiles to be respectful in court. When the psychological evaluation comes up, Stiles flatly refuses, asserting,
doing it, and you cannot force me to do it. You cannot physically make me go and show up and partake in anything that I do not want to partake in. Yes or no? Do you agree or not agree?
You don't get to ask me questions right now.
Her frustration mounts, and she begins to swear. The judge warns her that such language is inappropriate in court and threatens sanctions for further outbursts. Unfazed, Stiles continues her disruptive behavior, pushing her camera away and swearing again. The judge fines her $100 for each instance of contempt. The tension escalates as the judge attempts to set a date for Stiles' deposition, but she remains uncooperative, questioning the costs and continuing to swear. The fines stack up, totaling $400 by the end of the hearing. The judge, clearly exasperated, holds Stiles in contempt and orders her to pay the fines. The hearing concludes with a sense of unresolved frustration, but there's one final twist. Later, Stiles relinquished her parental rights, leading the court to grant full custody to the father, Ryan Parnell. 35-year-old Michael McDonald found himself in hot water once again, this time for allegedly violating his parole. A year ago, he was released on bond while awaiting trial for multiple charges stemming from a bitter divorce and custody case. With a no-contact order in place to keep him away from his ex-wife and children, the state now accuses him of breaching that order by sending gifts addressed to his kids. His lawyer argues that McDonald didn't realize this act violated the terms of the order.
Sent 2 gifts, that's it. No nasty notes with them. Mr. McDonald is not violent nor a threat to the community. He has had no allegations of violence.
The defense contends, urging the court to allow McDonald to remain free until his trial. However, the judge is less convinced, recalling McDonald's history in family court.
Dad back in family court, he constantly violated orders. He would always insist that the order said something else. I'm not sure that he is capable of controlling himself because he wasn't before. So based upon that, I am granting the motion.
As the judge's decision sinks in, McDonald's behavior takes a dramatic turn. When court marshals approach to take him into custody, he resists, triggering a struggle in the courtroom.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
Mike, calm down.
Behind your back.
Mike, calm down. Just relax. Breath. Mike, breath.
I got this thing about just come see my kids. Come on.
Mike, stop fighting with them. You can't fight there. Help them with cuffs on you. Mike, put the handcuffs on. Or I'll put them on myself.
Hey, come on.
I'm on your side, Mike. Put your out of line.
Despite warnings and threats of being tased, McDonald continues to resist, leading to even more trouble.
I just want to see my kids now getting prosecuted as an enemy of the state. I just want. I've done nothing.
In the end, McDonald was not only found guilty of burglary, forgery, and perjury related to his divorce case, receiving a sentence of 24 to 68 months in Nevada State Prison, but he also faced an additional charge of resisting an officer due to his actions during the hearing. His attempt to challenge the court's authority cost him dearly, highlighting how quickly things can spiral out of control when emotions run high in the courtroom. Ferguson stood in court for the senseless murders of his estranged wife, Tiffany Ferguson, and her father, J.J. Weber. Pleading guilty to first-degree and second-degree murder, his crime was shocking. After shooting Tiffany, he took their children to his father-in-law's house and murdered him as well. The children managed to escape to a neighbor's home, but Ferguson, not done with his rampage, broke into another neighbor's house and hid himself inside until he eventually surrendered to the police. As horrifying as his actions were, Ferguson's response to his sentencing managed to eclipse even the gravity of his crime. His motive? Tiffany's recent decision to file for divorce. Throughout previous court appearances, Ferguson made his disdain for the court and the judge well known, continuing his disruptive behavior during this arraignment with profane outbursts and refusal to cooperate.
You. Okay. Well.
The judge attempted to proceed.
I get you to stand up there and pose, please. All right, I need to have you raise your right hand for me. Okay, all right.
Just put me back in my cell.
Okay, stop.
Right.
Despite a plea deal that dropped several felony charges, including kidnapping and carrying explosives, the severity of Ferguson's crimes remained undeniable. During the trial, the prosecution argued for the maximum sentence.
The defendant is already murdered and murdered multiple people and fled and has taken hostages. There's no doubt in my mind that this particular defendant has a high risk non-appearance or danger to the public.
The judge agreed.
Murders, we have issues of flight, home invasion, kidnapping. You're gonna set it as a $10 million fine.
During sentencing, Tiffany Ferguson's friend, Carla, delivered a moving victim impact statement, shedding light on the emotional devastation Ferguson's actions had caused, especially for his own children.
I knew one day you would kill her. She would always reply, "He loves his kids too much. He won't kill me." Well, we see how much you love them.
When given a chance to speak, Ferguson offered no apology or sign of remorse. His words were cold and detached.
Tragedy. Just sent me, kill me, whatever. And about the children, they've been through enough. And that wouldn't be good for me to, I don't want them to see me.
Judge George Mertz, unmoved by Ferguson's lack of emotion, handed down the sentence: life in prison with no possibility of parole.
Never again have an opportunity to hurt any innocent people. Never again have the opportunity.
Yet even this final statement had no visible effect on Ferguson, who remained unrepentant. his chilling lack of remorse speaking louder than any outburst ever could. In Union County, Ohio, 49-year-old Anthony Redding found himself in court facing a serious charge: felonious assault for allegedly punching his girlfriend so brutally that she lost an eye. Redding claimed he had acted in self-defense and entered a plea of not guilty, but the jury had already reached its verdict. As the courtroom waited for Judge Donald Frazier to deliver the sentence, tensions ran high. Redding's emotions were evident as the judge addressed him, but his agitation quickly boiled over.
Yes, that's what I got. Satan.
Anthony, I can make things make right. Yeah. We still got sentencing to go through.
It's too small anyway.
Clearly, he is upset. Judge Frazier remained composed and cautioned him.
No reason for you to be acting this way.
Come on, let's go.
I think it's appropriate that the deputies put you in restraints before the court imposes sentence.
Give me 18. Yeah.
The prosecutor then outlined the case for a severe sentence, pointing to Redding's troubling behavior dating back to at least 2008. Redding, however, continued his outbursts, shouting vulgar language and insisting.
It's not good. I did not intentionally hit and this will be ruination of my life.
Judge Frazier, noting Redding's lack of remorse and disruptive behavior, delivered his decision.
All right. Well, the court finds that there's no genuine remorse shown here. The court further finds that a maximum sentence is warranted. The total prison sentence imposed is 18 years.
Anthony Redding was sentenced to 18 years in state prison, making him ineligible for release until 2037, when he will be 68 years old. His outbursts in court and apparent disregard for the gravity of his actions only solidified the judge's decision to impose the maximum sentence. In Sunset Harbor, South Beach, 30-year-old Jonathan Alexander Alonzo stood in court for the murder of his older lover, 61-year-old Lou Piper. Piper's body was discovered in his apartment after coworkers reported his absence from work. When building managers checked on Piper, they encountered Alonzo, who was seen leaving the apartment with his dog. Alonzo initially refused to let the managers in, claiming he hadn't seen Piper in days, but his story quickly changed. Detectives later noted Alonzo's evasive behavior. When asked if he reached Piper, Alonzo advised, "No, I can't. I'm in a rush. My ride is waiting for me." Alonzo was not seen again. It wasn't until Friday near the American Airlines arena that Alonzo was finally spotted and arrested. His actions at the police department only added to the drama. He ripped a digital camera and microphone off the wall during questioning, resulting in an additional charge of criminal mischief. The scene inside Piper's apartment was gruesome. Piper's body, in an advanced state of decomposition, showed evidence of multiple stab wounds. Blood covered the floors and walls, with a trail of bloody footprints leading to the bedroom. Investigators found several blood-stained knives scattered throughout the residence. Alonzo and Piper had shared the apartment for over a year, and their relationship appeared to be fraught with tension. Neighbors described it as romantic, but law enforcement had been called to the apartment multiple times. In September, Piper had attempted to have Alonzo removed from the premises, citing incidents of domestic violence. This wasn't the first time Piper had tried to distance himself from Alonzo. Court records reveal a pattern of conflict between the two. Piper had previously sought legal protection, alleging he was a victim of domestic violence at Alonzo's hands. An injunction was issued against Alonzo, but it was later lifted when Piper failed to show up for the court hearing. Despite the brutality of the crime, Alonzo's courtroom demeanor was even more shocking. During his court appearance, Alonzo launched into a bizarre rant, claiming to be acting as God's will. He declared,
"I'm selfless, and I am God's will, and that's all I follow, all I ever have."
His erratic statements left those in the courtroom stunned. He even addressed the judge with cryptic remarks, suggesting that people should resolve their conflicts on their own terms.
You make whatever decisions you need to work out between your own selves.
Thank you.
You work it out between your own selves.
Miami Beach police reported that Alonzo was uncooperative throughout the investigation, not only dismantling recording devices during questioning, but also spitting on officers. In the end, Alonzo was sentenced to 20 years and 6 months. his unsettling courtroom behavior and lack of remorse only underscoring the gravity of his crime. And finally, we're off to Campbell County Court in Newport, Kentucky, where things are about to get wild with 34-year-old Michael Hugenberg. Now, Hugenberg's already in hot water for allegedly assaulting a Campbell County deputy, but he seems determined to turn up the heat even more. As the jurors entered the room, Hugenberg, who's been sitting quietly at the back, suddenly springs up like he's got something to prove. Officers rush to hold him back, but Hugenberg has zero interest in playing it cool. And then, just like that, the courtroom is filled with the unmistakable sound of a taser. Hugenberg is down, and it's clear he's not going anywhere on his own terms. But his troubles don't stop there. After getting forcibly removed from the courtroom, he picks up an extra assault charge for his defiant performance. When the dust settles, the verdict is in: guilty. Adding the new charge to his original one, Hugenberg is handed a hefty 12-year prison sentence. His courtroom antics just bought him a lot more time behind bars than he probably bargained for. Thanks for sticking with us through all the drama today. We've seen courtroom chaos, defiance, and some serious consequences handed down. But here's a thought to leave you with. Should the courtroom be a place where strict order is maintained at all costs, or is there room for some leeway when emotions are running high? Do judges need more tools to handle these explosive situations, or are the rules set just right? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're curious to know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more unbelievable courtroom moments.